The crowd gasped. A scream cut through the hot afternoon air as Emma flew off the saddle, her body twisting in mid-air before crashing hard into the dirt. For a moment, everything stood still. Even the wild horse that had bucked her off so violently froze, snorting clouds of dust from its flared nostrils. People ran toward her shouting, but all Emma could hear was ringing. Her body wouldn't move. The sky above her was spinning, the sun stabbing into her eyes. Her right shoulder throbbed, and her ribs screamed with pain. She wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't supposed to ride that horse, and none of it was supposed to go this far. 3 minutes earlier, Emma had been standing behind the paddock, a fence, adjusting her gloves and brushing her short brown hair out of her eyes. It was supposed to be her first day helping at the county fair's stable tent, not riding in a competition. She was a volunteer, nothing more. She had come to help clean stalls and maybe lead a few ponies for children. That's when Marcus came over, tall, charming, and wearing the signature black hat of the Silver Ridge Ranch. He smiled like he'd known her for years. "Hey, Emma." "Change of plans," he'd said casually. "Jared's out. You'll ride in his spot for the exhibition round." Emma had laughed. "What? No way, I'm not even on the list." "You said you've ridden before," Marcus replied with a grin. "It's just for fun. Crowd gets excited. You'll ride old Dusty. Slow, predictable, safe as it gets." Something about his confidence made her hesitate. "But I've only ridden trail horses," she replied. "Nothing like these." Marcus had already walked away, waving it off. "You'll be fine." But old Dusty wasn't the horse she was led to. The stable hand, a quiet guy named Levi, had walked her past the stalls, then stopped at a gate with a large chestnut stallion pawing the ground aggressively. "This one?" Emma asked, heart starting to pound. Levi didn't even look at her. "That's what Marcus said." Emma had stared at the horse, unsure. Its eyes were wild, restless. Its coat gleamed with sweat, though it hadn't even been outside. Something felt wrong, very wrong, but the crowd was gathering, and the announcer's voice boomed across the fairgrounds. "Next up, a surprise rider. Let's welcome Emma Holloway." The crowd cheered, and with trembling fingers, Emma mounted. The moment her foot left the ground, the stallion tensed. She hadn't even sat fully before it began to buck. The first 2 jolts shocked her spine. She held on, gripping the reins and clenching with her knees, but she wasn't trained for this. The 3rd jolt sent her flying. Now, lying in the dirt, her breath shallow, Emma blinked as the shadows of people surrounded her. A paramedic knelt beside her. "Don't move, ma'am. Just stay still." She wanted to speak, to say she wasn't supposed to be on that horse, that someone made a mistake. But her throat burned and her vision blurred. Through the fog she heard someone whisper, "She rode Diablo. Why would they put her on that horse?" Diablo. That wasn't old Dusty. Diablo was known across the region, a rodeo horse with a history of throwing professionals. 1 broken collarbone, 2 fractured jaws, 1 man in a coma. Why would they trick her? Emma woke up in a hospital bed with white walls, IVs in her arm, and a searing ache in her side. Her shoulder was in a sling, and she could barely sit up without help. Her parents sat nearby, pale with worry. "What happened?" she whispered. Her mother squeezed her hand gently. "You were thrown off a horse, the worst one in the stable," they said. Emma blinked. It wasn't supposed to be him. Her. Dad stood up. "We're trying to understand how this happened. The organizers are being very quiet." Later that evening, a woman in a navy blue suit arrived. She introduced herself as Clara Miles, an investigator hired by the fair board. Her face was calm but serious. "I'd like to ask a few questions, if that's okay." Emma nodded weakly. Clara flipped open her notebook. "You were assigned old Dusty, correct?" "Yes." "Who led you to the horse you rode?" "A guy named Levi. He said Marcus told him." Clara scribbled something down. "Marcus Walker." Emma's eyes narrowed. "Yes, he said it would be fun. He didn't listen when I said I wasn't experienced." Clara paused. Did you know Diablo is considered unfit for casual riders? I didn't even know it was him. Clara looked troubled. We'll need to speak with Marcus. And Levi, there's a possibility this wasn't an accident. 2 days later, Clara returned. Her tone had changed. Marcus isn't answering calls. He left the fairgrounds the same day you were injured. No forwarding address, and no one's seen him since. Emma frowned. That doesn't make sense. He's part of the ranch. He was one of the team leaders. Clara hesitated. Emma, he doesn't officially exist in the records. No payroll, no employment files, no ID on file with the Silver Ridge Ranch. Emma froze. What do you mean? I mean, Clara said slowly, there's no Marcus Walker. Emma's recovery took 3 weeks. Her shoulder would take months to fully heal. But the wounds, deeper than bones, kept her awake at night. She couldn't stop thinking about the horse, the way it moved. Angry, powerful, yet not entirely out of control. There had been a moment right before she fell, where she felt something strange, like the horse had hesitated, like it wasn't trying to hurt her, but to test her. Emma started watching videos of Diablo on YouTube. Old rodeo clips. Riders being thrown. Every time the same pattern. Sudden bursts, then pauses, like it was performing, not just reacting. Something was off. And the more she watched, the more a strange idea formed in her mind. What if Diablo wasn't just dangerous? What if he had been trained that way, conditioned to act wild only under certain cues? But why, and why her? She began calling local trainers, trying to find anyone who had worked with Diablo before. Most didn't want to talk. One even hung up as soon as she mentioned the horse. Finally, a man named Tom Greaves agreed to meet. He was an ex-rider, old, sharp-eyed, and walked with a limp. They met at a diner just outside Silver Ridge. I was Diablo's trainer, Tom said bluntly. 10 years ago. Emma leaned forward. What can you tell me about him? Tom sighed. That horse wasn't born wild. He was made that way. What do you mean? Tom looked around, then lowered his voice. There was a program years ago. Rich clients, dangerous bets. They trained certain horses to react to hidden cues, specific smells, sounds, movements. Then they'd stage events, let someone ride, bet against them, make a fortune. Emma's blood ran cold. Are you saying someone used me? Tom didn't answer directly. All I know is Diablo hasn't been seen in public for years. Whoever made him that way, they didn't want the world watching. Emma sat back, her heart pounding. Her fall, the horse, Marcus, the vanishing act, the fake name, the missing records. It wasn't random, and worst of all, someone had brought Diablo back into the spotlight on purpose, to test her. 2 weeks. Later, Emma received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photo of her sitting on Diablo just before the fall. On the back, written in red ink, Emma stared at the photo in her hands for the 100th time. She had kept it, hidden inside her jacket pocket, afraid to tell even her parents. Every time she read the words written on the back, "Let's see if you're ready to finish what you started," a chill ran down her spine. Who sent this? Why? And what did they want from her? The image was taken at the exact moment just before she fell. She was still seated on Diablo, gripping the reins, her face unsure but focused. The horse looked fierce, but now, as she stared longer, she noticed something else in Diablo's eyes, not just rage but alertness, as if he was aware of the camera. Almost like he was posing. Emma couldn't sit still anymore. Her shoulder still throbbed sometimes, but her legs had healed. She had to return to Silver Ridge and find answers. Something bigger was happening, and someone clearly wanted her involved. 3 days later, Emma arrived back at Silver Ridge County under the cover of early morning fog. She had worn a hoodie and jeans, nothing that would make her stand out. The fair was over, the crowds gone, and the fairground now looked abandoned. Empty stalls, torn banners flapping in the wind, and the lingering smell of hay. She quietly walked toward the stables. As she reached the paddocks, she noticed something strange. Diablo wasn't there. His stall was empty. Instead, in its place was a new nameplate, for lease. There was no trace of the wild horse that had nearly broken her spine. She heard a voice behind her. "You're not supposed to be here." Emma turned quickly. It was Levi, the same quiet stable hand who had led her to Diablo the day of the incident. His face looked tired, more nervous now. "I need answers," Emma said firmly. "You brought me the wrong horse. You said Marcus told you to. Now Marcus doesn't exist. What's going on?" Levi glanced around to make sure no one else was nearby. Then he motioned for her to follow him. Inside a small utility shed, he shut the door and whispered, "I didn't want to do it. I swear, but they told me I had to." "Who?" Emma asked sharply. "A man. Drove up the day before the fair. Said his name was Marcus Walker, but now I don't know if that was real. He gave me $500 and said to make sure you rode Diablo, not old Dusty." Emma's breath caught. "Why me?" Levi looked scared. "He said he wanted to see if you had it. If you were ready. That's all he said." "Ready for what?" Levi shook his head. "I don't know. I don't want to know. I didn't think you'd get hurt." Emma stepped back, her mind racing. "Where did Diablo go?" "They took him right after the accident. Late that night. 2 black trailers, no license plates. Just gone." Emma frowned. "Who's they?" "I don't know their names," Levi whispered, "but they looked serious. Not ranch people, more like security guys, suits, earpieces." Emma felt her knees go weak. This wasn't just a mistake or a prank. This was planned. She went straight to Clara Miles, the investigator. Clara listened carefully as Emma told her everything, the photo, the message, Levi's confession. When Emma finished, Clara sat in silence for a long moment. Then she pulled out a file folder. "There's something you should see," Clara said. Inside the folder were copies of old newspaper clippings. Emma's hands trembled as she flipped through them. Headline 1, "Wild Horse Causes Chaos at Invitational Rodeo. Teen Girl Nearly Killed." Headline 2, "Mysterious Billionaire Funds Underground Riding Program for Elite Riders." Headline 3, "Project Breakpoint, the secret training behind million-dollar bets." Emma's eyes widened. "The last one was from 10 years ago. Project Breakpoint," she asked. Clara nodded. "It was a secretive program, unregistered, underground. Wealthy individuals bet on extreme horse-riding stunts. They trained riders from a young age and used specially conditioned horses. Some horses were trained to behave violently under secret cues." Emma felt her stomach twist. "Diablo." "It was shut down," Clara continued. "Or so we thought. But your case, it fits the same pattern. A horse trained to perform violently. A rider thrown in without knowing. Cameras watching." Emma's voice cracked. "Why me?" Clara looked her directly in the eyes. "Because I think you were once part of it." Emma froze. "What?" Clara leaned forward. "You were adopted, right?" Emma nodded slowly. "And you had riding experience, even as a child." "Yes, but just trails. My mom said I used to love it when I was little." "Emma, your adoption records are sealed. I tried looking into them, but what I found were 2 years missing before you turned 6. Emma's hands trembled. "I was in foster care," she said. "But before that," Clara said, "there's no record of where you were. I believe you were trained in the early stages of Breakpoint, and they've been watching to see if you still have the instincts." Emma stood up, shaking. "That's crazy. My parents would have told me." "Would they?" Clara said gently. "What if they didn't know?" Emma walked out, her mind spinning. A memory flashed in her head. She was 4, maybe 5. A small arena, a tall man with a scar under his eye. A strange smell in the air like smoke and leather. A horse with a white blaze, screaming. Applause. Then darkness. Had it been real or a dream? That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She opened her laptop and typed in every keyword Clara had given her: breakpoint, elite riders, secret training, underground rodeo. She found old blogs, deleted forum threads, and fragments of stories too wild to believe. One thread caught her attention, a post titled, "They don't train horses, they train girls." It was a single paragraph. They pick girls under 6, quiet ones, no families. They train them to ride under fear, under pressure. They pair each one with a horse, not to win, to control. But most don't make it. The ones who do, they disappear. Underneath, only one comment: check Easton, the old stables. Emma's heart stopped. Easton was just an hour away, and suddenly she knew she had to go. The next morning, Emma rented a car and drove to Easton alone. She didn't tell anyone, not her parents, not Clara. This was something she had to see, for herself. The road to the old stables was broken and forgotten, surrounded by thick trees and barbed wire fences. Her GPS stopped working halfway in. Only a narrow dirt path led her the rest of the way. Finally, she saw it. A row of abandoned wooden buildings, hidden behind a collapsed fence. The place looked like no one had been there in years, but someone had. Fresh tire tracks in the mud, a cigarette butt still warm, and a sound she couldn't ignore, a horse's breath. Emma moved carefully, her heart pounding. She reached the back of one of the barns, and there, standing quietly, was a horse. Her breath caught in her throat. It was Diablo. He stood still, tied gently with a thick rope, his eyes calm but sharp. No wildness, no fury, just silence. He looked at her, and for a moment she remembered. She remembered being 5, riding without fear, holding onto a horse just like this one, the smell of sand, the sound of commands, and a voice yelling, "Good girl, Emma!" A tear slid down her cheek. She reached forward, hand trembling. Diablo didn't flinch. He leaned forward and touched her palm. Her knees gave way. She sank into the dirt, crying silently. Not from fear, but from the deep, sudden knowledge that everything she thought she knew about herself had just changed. Then she heard the click, a camera shutter. Emma stood up, heart racing. Someone was watching. From the trees, a figure stepped out, tall, dressed in black. The man wore sunglasses, and around his neck was a pendant with the initials BP. He smiled coldly. "Welcome back, Emma," he said. "We've been waiting." Emma froze, her eyes locked with the man in black. The pendant around his neck shimmered in the fading sunlight. BP. Breakpoint. Her throat tightened. Diablo shifted. Beside her, sensing the tension, the man didn't flinch or raise his voice. He simply walked forward, boots crunching on dry leaves, calm as if he were greeting an old friend. "You look different now," he said, his voice low and smooth. "Older, but the eyes are still the same." Emma's heart thundered. "Who are you?" "I go by many names," he replied, "but you used to call me Sir." Emma's knees weakened. The memories she had locked away for so many years were starting to claw their way back. "You trained me," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "You remember more than you think." Emma backed away slowly. "Why bring me back? Why the trick? With Diablo? Why now?" The man didn't answer immediately. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Without a word, he tossed it on the ground between them. Emma stared at it. She didn't want to pick it up. Her body screamed to run, but her mind wouldn't let her. She reached down and unfolded the paper. It was a list. Names, ages, locations. Her eyes locked on the third name. Emma Ward. Age, 5. Code, Ember. Pairing, Diablo. She stepped back as if struck. "You knew me as a child," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I chose you," the man said. "You had something special. Most children crack under pressure. Not you. Even back then you were fearless. That's why you survived the first stage." Emma shook her head. That wasn't training, it was abuse. You forced children to ride wild animals. They weren't wild, he said sharply. They were conditioned. And so were you. Tears stung her eyes. She remembered the commands, the endless drills, falling, bleeding, getting back up, applause that felt cold and cruel. You turned us into machines. We turned you into survivors. Why me? She shouted. Why bring me back now? What do you want from me? He stared at her, his eyes hard. Breakpoint was shut down because someone betrayed us, someone on the inside. They leaked names, exposed methods. We lost everything, Emma swallowed. Good. You should have lost everything, his jaw clenched. But the program didn't die. It went underground, smaller, smarter, and now we're starting again. With only the best. You, Emma, were the best. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. You think I'd join you? She spat. After what you did to us. You already have, he said calmly. You came here. You sought Diablo. You remembered. Emma turned to Diablo, who stood still, watching both of them. She remembered the way he touched her hand earlier. There was no rage in him now, only a quiet understanding. He was never dangerous, was he? She asked. Not unless you made him that way. He responds to cues, the man said. Specific body movements, sounds, even smells. His reactions can be controlled. Emma's stomach twisted. So you made him attack me? We tested your instincts. You passed. Her hand curled into a fist. You put my life at risk. And you survived. That's what matters. Emma couldn't take it anymore. She turned, grabbing Diablo's rope and untying him. I'm taking him with me, she said. You can't, the man replied. He belongs to us. Emma's voice turned cold. Not anymore. The man stepped forward. You walk away now. You'll never find out the whole truth. You'll never know why you were chosen or what you were meant for. I don't care. He paused. Then maybe your real family will. Emma froze. She turned slowly. What did you say? He smiled. Again, you think your story started in foster care, but it didn't. You were taken there after the collapse of Breakpoint's first phase, but before that, you had parents, real ones, and one of them helped build Breakpoint. Emma felt like the ground had been pulled from under her. You're lying. Am I? He said. Go to Ridgewood Hospital. Ask for file Lucrochet 82A. It's buried deep. You'll need someone on the inside. But if you find it, you'll see everything. Your real name, your origin, and who brought you to us. Emma didn't respond. She turned away, mounted Diablo slowly, and rode off into the woods. She didn't stop riding for over an hour. Diablo ran like he knew the forest by heart. His gallop was smooth, powerful, silent. Not once did he resist her commands. It was like they were in sync. She finally reached a clearing and stopped. The sky was turning deep blue, the stars just beginning to appear. Emma slid off Diablo and sat in the grass, her heart heavy. Had everything about her life been a lie? She had always felt like something was missing. A strange distance between her and her adoptive parents. Not love, but something unspoken, as if they too were afraid of stirring up the past. And now, someone claimed her real parents were part of this. She needed answers. 2 days later, Emma stood outside Ridgewood Hospital, wearing a nurse's borrowed scrubs and a fake badge she'd gotten through a friend of Clara's. It was risky, illegal even, but she was done waiting. She walked down a quiet hallway toward the archive room. The badge got her past security. The name she gave, Tina Marks, wasn't questioned. No one looked twice at another nurse in the system. Inside the dusty archive room, she found the cabinet marked Confidential, Internal Use Only. Drawer after drawer passed until she found the one labeled 882-892. Her hands trembled as she pulled out file Nutrate 82A. She opened it. The first page hit her like a train. Subject name, Ember Ward, Dobb, redacted. Mother, Dr. Helena Ward, deceased. Father, classified. C. Addendum, C. Enrolled in program Breakpoint. Age 3, pairing assigned, equine subject. Diablo tears welled in her eyes. It was true. Everything. The next page showed photos. Her, younger, no more than 4, sitting on a horse, surrounded by adults in lab coats. One of them circled in red, a woman with sharp eyes and auburn hair. Dr. Helena Ward, her mother. Emma felt her whole world shift. She read on. Subject shows unusual levels of fear suppression, high balance control, and rapid command retention. Bonded with equine subject within 4 days, an exceptional rate. Recommendation, advanced to Tier 2 under close monitoring. H.W. Emma turned to the last page, a scribbled note, handwritten. If something happens, protect her. She was never supposed to stay in Breakpoint. She's more than this, she's mine. Emma covered her mouth. Her mother hadn't wanted her trapped in that program. She had tried to stop it, but something, or someone, must have silenced her. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. Emma panicked. She stuffed the papers under her scrubs, closed the drawer, and slipped out the back door just as a staff member entered. She barely escaped. Back in her room that night, she laid, the papers out on her bed, staring at them. Clara called her phone. "I've been trying to reach you," Clara said. "Are you okay?" Emma told her everything. The man at the barn, the files, her mother. Clara's voice was tight. "Emma, I think we found something too. Levi gave me a name before he vanished. He was scared. He said, 'Watch the fundraiser. It's all connected.'" "Fundraiser?" Emma asked. "There's a charity event tomorrow night. Quiet, private, high-profile guests. One of the backers, a man named Arthur Blackmore. He used to fund Breakpoint before it ended." Emma's blood ran cold. "Is the event public?" "Not exactly, but I got us 2 passes, you and me. We're going in." Emma nodded slowly, feeling something rise in her. Not fear, not any more. Determination. She was going to get the truth about Diablo, about Breakpoint, and most of all, about herself. The next evening, Emma walked into the luxury event hall wearing a dark green dress and a fake name tag that read, "Event Consultant." The room buzzed with laughter, champagne, and old money. But beneath the smiles, Emma could feel it. Secrets, heavy ones. Clara guided her through the crowd, whispering names and titles. Third man from the left owns 5 racing stables. The woman beside him, ex-government scientist. And that one over there, Emma stopped. Standing across the room was him, the man from the barn. He raised a glass and gave her a slow, knowing smile. Before she could react, someone tapped her shoulder. "Excuse me," a voice said politely. She turned and stared into the cold, unreadable eyes of Arthur Blackmore himself. He extended a hand. "You must be Emma." Emma froze, her hand halfway to Arthur Blackmore's, the man who had once backed Breakpoint. The man who, if Clara's intel was correct, helped destroy her mother's work, or her life. "You must be Emma," he repeated, his grip firm, his smile cold. "Or should I say, Ember?" Her heart skipped a beat. No one in this room should have known that name. "How do you know that name?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Arthur leaned in slightly, the way predators do when they already have their prey cornered. "Because I designed it. That name wasn't a mistake. It was your designation, your role, your potential." Emma's fingers curled. "You turned children into experiments." Arthur shrugged. "We gave orphans purpose, discipline, survival. Without us, you'd be just another forgotten child." Emma took a deep breath. "You're wrong. Without you, I would have had a life, a family." He chuckled. "Family? Your mother handed you over, Emma. She built Breakpoint. She believed in it, until she got too soft." Emma's voice trembled with rising fury. She tried to protect me. That's why you silenced her, isn't it? Arthur's expression shifted slightly. Dr. Helena Ward was a brilliant mind, but she let love cloud her judgment. She tried to take you away. That would, unfortunate. Emma's chest tightened. You killed her. He didn't deny it. We removed the threat. For the greater good. Before Emma could respond, Clara appeared beside her, slipping a tiny flash drive into her hand without a word. Arthur noticed, but said nothing. He simply smiled again and walked away, vanishing into the crowd like a ghost. Emma gripped the flash. Drive! Her thoughts racing. Later that night, inside Clara's apartment, they plugged the drive into her laptop. What's on it? Emma asked. Clara clicked through folders quickly. It's everything: video files, audio, documents, hidden contracts, training footage, including one titled Operation Ember, Termination Orders. Emma's blood ran cold. Termination? Clara opened the video. A surveillance recording flickered to life. Two men in suits sat at a table. One of them was Arthur. The other, the man from the barn. Arthur's voice rang out. She's waking up. We need to eliminate her before she remembers. Too much. She's already bonded with Diablo, the other man said. If she regains full memory, she could bring the whole thing down. Arthur nodded. Then let's give her one last test. If she fails, she's no threat. If she succeeds, we'll end it. Clara gasped. They were always planning to kill you. Emma sat still, eyes locked on the screen. They had lured her back, made Diablo attack, pushed her toward discovery, so they could test whether she remembered enough to be dangerous. Now she did. I'm not running anymore, she said, standing. If they want a show, I'll give them one. But this time, I choose the arena. 3 days later, an underground racing event had been planned just outside the city. A secret, illegal circuit where horses were pushed to terrifying limits and people bet on everything: speed, control, survival. Arthur Blackmore was rumored to sponsor these events. Emma and Clara arrived before dawn. Clara wore a headset, guiding, Emma with comms. Emma wore a dark riding outfit, not a costume this time, but something that fit her body, her training, her scars. Diablo was with her, quiet, steady, and watching her with intelligent eyes. You ready for this? Clara asked. Emma nodded. We're ending it tonight. Inside the event bunker, high-profile guests and underground figures stood around the starting line, laughing, sipping drinks, and waiting for the main event. Arthur Blackmore arrived late, of course. When he saw Emma at the starting gate with Diablo, he smirked. I must say, he called, you have more courage than I expected. Emma mounted Diablo in one smooth move. This time I'm not riding for you, I'm riding for her. Arthur didn't respond, but she could see the twitch in his jaw. The gate dropped. Diablo shot forward like a bullet, wild and fast, tearing. Through the track, the race was unlike any normal ride. The track twisted through tunnels, steep hills, and narrow gaps barely wide enough for a horse. It was designed for chaos. Other riders screamed, fell, panicked. But Emma and Diablo moved as on, weaving, leaping, ducking, dancing with death. Her body remembered every motion. Diablo responded to the lightest touch. Clara's voice crackled in her ear. You're being watched. Cameras are everywhere. Arthur's security is recording this to use against you. Let them, Emma replied. I want the world to see. As they neared the final stretch, a wall of fire exploded ahead. A cruel surprise challenge meant to force riders to stop. Emma whispered, now. She leaned low. Diablo didn't hesitate. He leapt through the flames, powerful and fearless. The crowd roared in disbelief. Emma landed hard, nearly falling, but stayed on. She crossed the finish line first. Silence, then thunderous applause. Arthur, clapped slowly from the shadows, eyes narrow. He stepped forward, microphone in hand. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner, and not just any rider. This is Ember Ward, the girl they tried to erase, the girl who remembers." Gasps rang out. People looked around, confused, some of them shocked, others afraid. Clara's voice echoed in Emma's ear. "Go now." Emma took the mic from Arthur's hand and faced the cameras. "My name is Emma Ward. When I was 3 years old, I was taken from my mother and forced into a secret program called Breakpoint. I was trained like a soldier. They told me I was strong, special, but what they meant was useful. They broke children like me, they killed my mother, and now they want to disappear me again." She turned to Arthur. "Not today." Clara activated the live stream. Across the internet, thousands began watching. The documents, the footage, the voice recordings, all released. Arthur's face twisted. "You'll pay for this." Emma stepped closer, unafraid. "You're already done." Security stormed the platform, but not toward Emma, toward Arthur. Someone had tipped off the authorities. His arrest was not just a possibility, it was happening now. The crowd broke into chaos. Some tried to leave, others recorded everything. As Arthur was dragged away, he screamed, "This isn't over! You were made for this! You're one of us!" Emma looked down at Diablo, who stood calm beneath her. "No," she whispered, "I'm more than what you made me." 2 months later, the news headlines told the rest. Illegal program exposed, Breakpoint ties to top officials, underground training of orphans. Survivor speaks out. Arthur. Blackmore sentenced to life in prison. People were shocked, outraged, heartbroken, and they listened to Emma. Her courage inspired others to come forward. Former trainers, survivors, even whistleblowers. Breakpoint's hidden networks were dismantled, but the past couldn't be erased. Emma returned to the quiet countryside where it all started. Clara bought the old barn and turned it into a recovery center for rescued horses and troubled teens. They named it the Ember Sanctuary. Diablo lived there too, still strong, still loyal. Children learned to ride, not through fear, but through trust. One day, a little girl asked Emma, "Was Diablo really wild once?" Emma smiled, brushing the horse's neck. "No, he was scared, just like I was. But when you stop trying to control something and start listening, it can become your best friend." The final lesson, true strength doesn't come from breaking others. It comes from surviving, remembering, and choosing not to become what hurt you. Emma had been forced to face her past, but in doing so, she reclaimed her future. She was not just a survivor, she was a rider, a fighter, and finally, free. The end.